So, Kamen Rider Gates episode 48, the penultimate episode, the second last episode of the series. The game has nearly come to a close, and it's been a crazy ride. So, Kamen Rider Gates episode 48 is the battle between Ace and Soul as they have their final confrontation in this episode. And I'm going to say, it's a pretty cool fight that we get in this episode, and with an interesting twist at the end of the episode. I did not see that coming, I will say that. So, this episode involves our heroes trying to stop the bad end game, as everyone who became a rider last week, they've got to beat the crap out of each other in a battle royale, because the aim of the game is to beat the crap out of the other player and steal their happiness. So it's just a big brawl for all, and their heroes are trying to stop it. Some players try to escape, but that doesn't turn out well for them as they get gassed and their heads explode, which was pretty freaking cool. Their heads don't explode, they explode in general. They get finger snapped and then they just blow up, which was kind of surprising to see. Like, that was like a Gantz element that they brought into the show, which was great to see. So, this episode had our heroes trying to stop everything from going on, but not only that, we see the return of an old familiar face, Giori. What is Giori doing here? Well, he's here to help Ace sneak into the lair of Soul and help him get into the backdoor entry, which was pretty cool to see him sort of come back in this final part of the show to help out Ace. Why did he do it? Well, he's not liking how things are turning out, how it's mostly the VIPs getting all the special treatments and they're the ones calling the shots. Like, they're the main audience of the show. So that's the thing that he's upset about. I don't know, maybe my subs were a bit off, but he ain't happy. So, there was some other cool fights in this episode, like Win trying to fight one of the sort of cloaked people, and then he's unable to fight him off, and then suddenly he's saved by Daichi. Daichi's a good guy. I guess it's officially confirmed that he's a good guy now, because he's got his own Jamato that he's got, and they've got sunflowers on their head. And as Samori says, they're cute, but they're also disgusting. So, we've got that going on. So, Daichi, I guess he's a good guy now. But there was some other cool moments, like Buffer, where he's trying to fight off all the other riders because he's invincible, so they won't be able to defeat him, I guess. Or Buffer just calls himself invincible. But then you've got K, where he's like, hey, don't hurt anyone. He's like, oh, okay. And then he's just sort of like copying all the damage and just like gently kicking them back as they're all dogpiling on him. So that was a fun moment as well in this episode. But this episode like had a lot going for it, as it's sort of setting up the final arc, or the last episode to set up the big finale. So in this episode, we do get the confrontation between Ace and Soul in this episode, where it's a pretty cool fight, where you have this moment where Ace transforms and he bounces around the place in his Boost Mark 9 form. Really cool coordination, where he just bounces like from place to place, and then like Soul knocks him back, and then they fight in like a more open area with like all the rubble and stuff like that, and then they keep fighting, and then suddenly Soul's powers stop working, because Soul gets his powers from the audience, the VIP. They're the audience that sort of fuels his powers. And in this episode, you do have a nice moment when Neon and Daddy Time Fire start talking, and they say, hey, let's work together, because Daddy Time Fire says, hey, why not use that Kurama influence to fix what I've done? And that's exactly what they do. Like, there's a scene where you find out that he doesn't have powers from the audience, because the big reveal is that you have Neon and you've got Daddy Timefire, and they went up to the VIP and they said, hey, if you keep watching this game, we can't guarantee your safety, but if you join our side, then hey, we can guarantee your safety. So all those VIPs pull out and they stop watching the game, so that means Soul can't use his powers anymore, and Ace is about to land the finishing blow in this episode, and then suddenly, through some means, some way, we have Soul, he taps his belt, and he has JoJo powers where he's able to rewind the world, and basically use Another One Bites the Dust from Kira in JoJo, where he's able to rewind the world, and Ace no longer has his powers, but also he's wounded in the battle. So he's got all the JoJo powers. He's got Zaweldo, and he's got Another One Bites the Dust. So he's got bullshit powers within his belt. Well, it is called the Infinite Belt, so of course it would have some kind of weird endgame final possibility that makes him OP and broken. So I expected that, but I didn't see it coming in this episode, because I thought they were going to wrap up this fight in this episode, but it looks like it's going to conclude in next week's episode. But the big twist in this episode is it's raining, and they suddenly recreate the opening where Samori holds up the gun to Ace in this episode, and seemingly the episode ends with Ace being shot. So it's weird that we're seeing all these bits from the opening getting recreated, such as Samori holding the gun up, and then you've got Ace with the chains that we saw in the episode. So I do wonder if that stuff was all planned from the beginning, or they just sort of put it in the episode. If it was planned from the beginning, or like notes in the beginning, then I guess that's smart planning ahead. If it's not, then hey, I guess they worked it in somehow. But yeah, this episode, honestly, I enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it. I think it's all the action and the fighting that kept the pace moving at a relative good speed. And then when you saw how the conclusion was going to go down, you were wondering if they were going to defeat Saul in this episode, but that wasn't the case, as it looks like the fight is going to continue on to next week, and we have no idea if Ace lived or died. So we'll have to find out in next week's episode in the finale. So I am curious to see how they're going to wrap things up in their show with only one episode left to go. So I am very curious to see how they're going to wrap up their show. But overall, this episode of Gates had some really good moments. Like I said, some really good fight scenes, some really cool action. We got to see Boost Mark II used for the first time in forever, where the people were going to explode the participants that didn't want to fight, and Ace was able to use Boost Mark II and sort of stop them from setting off the bombs. So that was a cool moment as well in this episode. So this episode I enjoyed. It had some really good moments. Like maybe they could have explained Giori returning a little bit because he just came out of nowhere, but I also understand we've got 2 episodes left, so there's a bit of a time crunch, but it was cool to see him back again, I will say that. The actor kind of looks a little bit different, because I distinctly remember him being slightly older, a little bit more wrinklier, if I remember correctly, because he kind of looked younger than from last time we saw him, I guess. But hey, maybe I'm just remembering things wrong. But Kamen Rider Gates episode 48, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I enjoyed it. I got a kick out of it. And we'll see how this show is going to end next week. But anyway, guys, what did you think of Kamen Rider Gates episode 48? Love it? Hate it? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. With that said, I'm out of here. Have a wonderful day or night, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out. Take care. Bye.